I've been having a lot of fun at the start of Season 10 and have even boasted a 60% win rate to start out the season. I'm hoping to make Masters for the first time, so I'm doing my best to keep that up. My game plan was simple, play Cassiopeia and get a lot of LP. But then one game I was autofilled to jungle, and I had already used my dodge to the game before, so in Champ Select I was trying to figure out what jungler was I going to play. And so I'm scrolling through the list of junglers and I see Kha'Zix, my boy. Thankfully, I did not look at his OP.GG tier ranking for him because I would have been majorly disappointed. I'm not sure if there's another champion more annoying in the jungle than Kha'Zix. He has been one of my favorite champions to play in the jungle for multiple seasons because of his flashy playstyle. There are many high tier Kha'Zix 1 tricks because of his ability to absolutely carry a match if he gets a couple of kills. Kha'Zix has a mechanic unique to him alone in League of Legends. This mechanic is called evolving and allows him to upgrade one of his abilities every time he levels up his ultimate. His Q does more damage to isolated champions, his W shoots extra things. These things can slow, and his E can jump farther and also resets after getting a kill or an assist, and his ultimate increases the amount of times he can go invisible from 2 up to 3. That was a lot, and sometimes picking which one to upgrade can be an intimidating task. So I'll give you one of the evolution patterns that I'm currently using in a moment. There's a lot of customization, and different Kha'Zix players have their favorite evolution path, but it really depends on their playstyle. Upgrading your R early in the game can allow you to gank more effectively while also applying your passive, which if done properly can slow up to 3 times. Q is a classic upgrade because it upgrades the damage to isolated targets and increases your clear speed. E and W are usually second or third upgrades because they don't offer a lot in the early game. My personal favorite evolution path right now is Q into R into E. If I'm fed out of my mind, I might evolve E before R so I can get resets in the middle of fights, but usually that path that I just mentioned is the way that I go. Another situation where this might be different is when there aren't any squishy champions that you can assassinate on the other team. If this is the case, then I recommend that you evolve W at some point so that you can apply a slow during team fights. In reality, it won't make a large impact in the larger scheme of the game, but it's one of those small inches you might need to win. I take Q first because it increases my clear speed and my damage to isolated camps like Gromp, Red Buff, and Blue Buff. This is the starting path that we will talk about later in this video, but with the recent changes to jungle camps and their experience increase over the game, Gromp has become more valuable than Krugs, and Kha'Zix's isolation mechanic allows him to capitalize on this recent change. When I pulled out Kha'Zix for the first time this season, I am glad that I didn't pull up his position on OP.GG because it was pretty bad. He was tier 3, which is basically code for don't play these champions. Thankfully, I didn't see this and I pulled him out and went on an absolute tear. I boasted higher than an 80% win rate in 15 games. And then I went on this super mega loss streak and I lost that stat completely. But originally, I was tearing it up. He is very similar to Rengar and other assassins in the jungle. When he is ahead, he is oppressive to play against, but when he gets behind, he's almost useless. This is why it is so important to understand pathing and how to do well in the early game so that when the game progresses, you can take every advantage that you can and have built a sizable lead for yourself. I think it's hard to talk about Kha'Zix without mentioning how flashy he is to play. Like other high-skilled champions, he just has a certain charisma that increases how fun it is to play him. I think this is due to 2 things. The first is his ultimate. For being an assassin, he doesn't have an ultimate that does a crazy amount of damage, but it allows him to go invisible for a short duration. He can do this twice when he evolves his ultimate, which goes to 3 times, and also increases how long he's invisible for. There have been multiple times where I have lost people chasing me because I've used my ult and then changed directions. He's just so fun and so flashy, so even if he's not in the meta, I'll still play him. He's kind of like Rengar. Their kit will never allow them to be S tier because Riot won't buff them in a substantial way. They will always be strong if fed and will have a large following of mains because their kit is so niche and specialized. Guys, the second reason I love playing Kha'Zix and why he has this charisma of being such a flashy champion we'll talk about in a second. It has to do with his E-jump and the bunny hop. If you haven't seen Kha'Zix montages on YouTube, then you are truly missing out. Although I play him a lot, I would not consider myself a Kha'Zix main. The high elo Kha'Zix players are insane and they can make these cool bunny hop montages. The bunny hop move is when you kill a champion while jumping with your E and then using it immediately again to reset your jump. It really does not help in any way unless you're trying to gain ground on a fleeing enemy, but that doesn't matter because this move looks incredible, regardless of whether you're going to use this move in the future or not. A Kha'Zix evolved E is just so much fun to use and it's hard to ignore that. Just by pressing it once, you jump twice as far as the normal E and it allows you to gap close very easily. Plus, there's nothing scarier than a Kha'Zix jumping and leaping into you at a team fight. If there's another champion that is scarier, go ahead and throw that in the comments below. Alright people, it's time to talk about something I personally love about Kha'Zix, but this is also something that doesn't make a lot of sense when it comes to assassins, and that is his ultimate. Now when you think of assassins, what do you think about? You think about Zed's Death Mark, Fizz's Shark. Well, Kha'Zix's ultimate doesn't do any damage. And similarly to Rengar, Kha'Zix's ultimate enables him to use his passive more effectively. And if you were the Kha'Zix in my last game, then I know you don't know what his passive is. Every time Kha'Zix leaves vision of the other team, he gains an empowered auto attack that does more damage and slows his target. This is great because this adds a slow for his ganks, but his ultimate allows him to apply this another 2 or 3 times. Most Kha'Zix players that I see in low elo just jump on their target and Q them, but the correct combo, if you have a little extra damage and aren't worried about getting CC'd or them fleeing or flashing, is to use your empowered auto into your Q because it has a larger cast distance than your auto. This empowered auto can do a ton of damage late game and allow you to one-shot the enemy ADC if they are isolated. Plus, his ultimate allows him to run around in the middle of a fight, applying his high damage slow, and he can just appear right next to his opponents, one-shotting them. Although I will say the isolation mechanic might be one of the most humbling mechanics in the game. When an enemy champion is 500 cubits away from another unit, which also includes minions, Kha'Zix Q will do an insane amount of damage. This is great for catching out extended champions, but gets tricky in the later stages of the game when teams start to group as 5. In a full-on team fight, you need to be very careful about your positioning. Because your opponents are grouped up, you can't just jump in like an idiot and try to one-shot the carry. Your main source of damage, your Q, will only do half the damage because your target is not isolated. You are already a squishy champion, so even if you were able to one-shot them, you'd end up getting blown up in the process, and that's not usually a good idea if you're really fed. This will usually test your patience and even improve your team fighting skills because you are forced to be patient and wait for the enemy champion to misstep, allowing you to get a free kill, which can snowball into a multi-kill with his E reset. Kha'Zix is so fun, y'all. Well, unless you don't get any kills, then honestly, it's a quick FF at 20. Alrighty, let's talk about Kha'Zix's initial pathing. I once saw a comment on a high elo jungle video that said,
"Why do you only focus on the first path and not many of the other ones after that later into the game?"
Well, Bronzy, it's kind of simple. It's because the first clear is the most important clear in the game. Mess it up, die, get invaded, or whatever, and you'll almost surely be out of the rest of the game. A solid starting 5-minute plan in the jungle can put you on track to win most games. So what you're going to do is you're going to start at blue, Gromp, and then red if you're on the red side. And if you're on blue side, you're going to start red, blue, and then Gromp. And then after that, you're going to look to invade, gank, or get the Scuttle Crab in that order every single time. If you can consistently do this and then find out where to go after, you're going to be set up for a lot of success. For the current jungle meta, you're going to want to start whatever side your bot lane will leash so that you have a healthier clear. This initial clear will give you level 3 with about 15 to 20 seconds before the Scuttle Crab spawns, which will give you a chance to gank or invade. And if you're on the red side, this works out great because most players in low elo go to their top buff 4th instead of 3rd. So they are arriving at low health when you finally invade their jungle. I pulled off some super easy first bloods that have no doubt hard tilted the opposing jungler. If you do decide to invade, make sure that you keep an eye on your laners. If they are pushing, then it's easier for them to roam and follow and harder for the opposing laners to contest. Also guys, these are the runes that I've been using on Kha'Zix. I know people have been using Dark Harvest and Electrocute. It's kind of up to you. I personally have been liking Dark Harvest a little bit more recently, but Electrocute is also a great rune. Y'all, I hope you enjoyed this video. Drop a like, guys. Please subscribe to the channel. As always, this has been Snowda. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.